Coming up on Sports Paws, Baker Dunleavy, after 6 seasons at the helm, resigns as the head coach of the men's basketball team, while Tom Pecora will take over and be the new head coach.
We have all the latest news on the men's ice hockey team as players are getting signed to NHL and AHL contracts, as well as incoming transfers to the program.
And women's lacrosse won a thrilling overtime victory on Senior Day.
All this and much more on Sports Paws, which starts right now. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Sports Paws. I'm David Marr.
And I'm Griffin Cass. Thanks for joining us. We have big news out of Lender Court. After 6 seasons at the helm, Baker Dunleavy has resigned as Quinnipiac's head coach.
Men's basketball beat reporter Keith Savage has more on this story with the latest edition of the Charity Stripe. Keith, take it away.
Breaking news, Quinnipiac men's basketball coach Baker Dunleavy has resigned from the university, and Tom Pecora will assume head coaching responsibilities for the team. Dunleavy and Pecora both joined in 2017. Pecora was the head coach of Fordham and Hofstra in the past before joining Baker Dunleavy's squad. Dunleavy was assistant at Villanova before joining Quinnipiac, and now he's back at Nova as the GM for the men's and women's basketball teams. It'll be interesting to see how the future of this team looks. There's already 3 players in the transfer portal with Desi Jones, Louis Corright, and Taimu Chenry. With the lack of guard depth on this team, you could maybe see Tom Pecora try to dip into the transfer portal on his own. And we've also have to see if anybody else to transfer, as there's a new head coach on the team. So many interesting headlines of how the team will turn out in the next few months and how the roster could shape up. But that's all I have for this breaking news. Again, Baker Dunleavy has resigned as head coach, and Tom Pecora will take over the responsibilities.
Thanks, Keith, for the update on the bench boss of the basketball team. Switching over to the ice, standout goaltender Yaniv Pretz is heading to the pros. The former Quinnipiac men's ice hockey goaltender has signed a 2-year NHL contract with the Carolina Hurricanes, as well as an amateur trial contract with their AHL affiliate, the Chicago Wolves, for the rest of the AHL season. The former 2-time ECAC Hockey Goaltender of the Year broke Michael Garte's career shutout record this season. After finishing the season in Chicago, Pretz will have the opportunity to make the jump to Raleigh and take his talents to the show. Speaking of contracts, multiple Bobcats have been signed to minor league professional deals this past week. Jake Johnson signed with the ECHL's Fort Wayne Comets. Michael Lombardi got inked by the AHL's Tucson Roadrunners. Former captain Zach Metza was picked up by the AHL's Rochester Americans, and TJ Friedman was acquired by the AHL's Utica Comets. Also, Skylar Brindamore received a professional tryout from the AHL's Charlotte Checkers, rather than signing with his original draft team, the Edmonton Oilers. Both Johnson and Lombardi scored their first professional goals this past weekend with their respective teams. Even with certain Bobcats signing pro deals, some have opted to remain in Hamden for the 2023-2024 season. Defenseman Jaden Lee will be returning for a grad year, and forward Sam Lipkin will also be coming back following an excellent first-year campaign. Lipkin was rumored to be signed by the team that drafted him, the Arizona Coyotes, but declined the offer. Lipkin had 14 goals and 29 assists in 39 games, while Lee had 4 goals and 16 assists in 41 games. Both Lee and Lipkin will play big roles as a new era and a title defense begins for the Bobcats next year.
A new era means new faces between the pipes. Quinnipiac saw some movement in the transfer portal as Rand Pecknold switches up his goalie personnel. The Bobcats have added a new goalie to the roster. However, they have lost a goalie on their roster. Goaltender Chase Clark has entered the transfer portal. The Washington Capitals draft pick appeared in 8 games this season for the Bobcats, recording 21 saves. Vinny Duplessis has been added to the roster after spending 3 years at Boston University. Duplessis is looking to be the next Quebec goaltender for Quinnipiac to bring an NCAA title to Hamden. Quinnipiac women's assistant ice hockey coach has won the 2023 Women's World Championship. Hill has come to Quinnipiac after being the program director and the head coach of Selects Academy U16 and U19 teams. At Selects Academy, Hill placed 29 students in NCAA Division I and Division III ice hockey programs over the last 3 seasons, with 14 more athletes committed to compete at the collegiate level next season. He'll also develop 10 student athletes who have competed for the Canadian, American, German, and Icelandic national teams. Hill also has coaching experience with USA Hockey. Hill coached the USA Hockey U18 women's national team at the 2015 IIHF Women's World Championships in Buffalo, New York. This is his first time coaching the IIHF team. Let's move over to acrobatics and tumbling as they went up against Caldwell University on Senior Day. The Bobcats would easily win this match by a final score of 281.125 to 133.625. Quinnipiac posted season-high marks in compulsory, toss, tumble, and team routine, and they tied a season-best mark in the pyramid. The Bobcats will now turn their attention to the 2023 NCATA postseason. They will be hosted at West Liberty University on April 27th to the 29th. The Bobcats are on the road to West Virginia for the NCATA National Championship as the 4th seed. For a full preview of the tournament, here's Q30's Ben Kane and James Blenu.
The national championships are just around the corner, and here for your preview of Quinnipiac's run in the NCATA National Championships at West Liberty. I'm James Blenu alongside Ben Kane. Now, Ben, let's get right into this. The 4-seeded Quinnipiac Bobcats are taking on the 5-seeded Gannon. Now, they just matched up last year in a tri-meet. What do you think the Bobcats can take away from that meet and their run in this tournament?
Now, it was their first meet since COVID in over 2 years, so I think the biggest takeaway is just experience. Just getting on the mats, competing for the very first time. It was their lowest point total in 2 years. So the Bobcats don't really have too many takeaways. The one thing, and we'll talk a little bit about it later, was the team event in that year. It was the highest team event in that year, as well as this year. If you put it in there with their compared to their others, it was third. So they had a really good showing on that event. They obviously lost to Gannon, but they beat Augustana in that tri-meet, like you mentioned. So it's really just all about experience, as well as when you're looking at their meet in the national championships, you get to see Gannon on the mats, which is something they didn't get to see this season. So there's a few takeaways trying to see what Gannon's going to do in those national championships.
And we talk about that team event, the season high just Friday against Caldwell. It really has been one of the bright spots for the Bobcats all year long. So we'll see how the team event can possibly carry them to a victory in this tournament. Now, last year, beating Oregon in the first round, but then heartbreak against Baylor in the semifinals. What do you think the Bobcats can do differently and take away from that in this year's tournament?
I think the big thing is you look at their last meet against Caldwell University on Friday, and like you talked about before, it was the team event. And we're going to keep harping on that in this preview, but that was the Bobcats' shining moment there. A 98.473. I had to look at my iPad to make sure I had the right score against Caldwell University, but that's their best they've done all season. And like you heard the roar from the mats. You heard everyone cheering because they knew just how well they did. I think that's going to be something that really propels them. And we see a lot of cool moves in the acro event from Mia Rose King, something she didn't do at all last season, and kind of getting that extra year of experience. I think those two things, going forward into the national championships, are going to be huge.
You talk about Mia Rose King, one of the best recruits that Marianne Powers has possibly had in recent years. Now let's jump right into some predictions for this matchup. Ben, what do you think is going to happen, Bobcats and Gannon?
I think the Bobcats only lost to Gannon by just a few points last year, but I do see the improvements from recovering them last year to this year, so I think they're going to be able to beat Gannon, and then it's going to be a Baylor wall that they're going to come up against. But I do think this is one of the strongest Bobcat squads, and especially from that last meet against Caldwell, having good expectations going forward, that's going to be huge. So I expect them to beat Gannon. It's going to be tough against Baylor, but I think the one thing that's going to propel them over the edge is how the Bobcats across all sports have done this year. And I think when you look, if you're in that acro squad and you look at all the other teams on campus and how much success they've had, that's going to drive you and push you to say, hey, we're one of the best teams in the nation. How can we get to that level, that men's ice hockey we're just at a few weeks ago?
Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to tune into the NCATA National Championships later this month. For Q30 Sports, I've been James Blenu. That's Ben Kane. So long.
Thank you, James and Ben. Now let's head over to the tennis courts as both the women's and men's teams secure a regular season title. The women's tennis team secured their 9th straight MAC regular season title after defeating the Marist Red Foxes. Since joining the MAC in 2013, Quinnipiac has a record of 60-1 in MAC regular season matches. On the other hand, the men's team secured the title as MAC regular season tri-champions, with Siena and Fairfield joining them. Both squads will battle in the MAC tournament this weekend with the women's facing the Mount and the men's facing Siena. Staying on the topic of tennis, another women's tennis player has reached the 100-win milestone, and that player is Claire Kosilski. She joins teammate Camilla Nella as the second Bobcat to reach the century mark milestone. Kosilski earned her win against the Marist Red Foxes. The senior from Indiana transferred into Quinnipiac after spending the fall 2019 semester at the University of Cincinnati. She's looking to keep the momentum on her side as the MAC tournament begins this upcoming weekend when the Bobcats square off against the Mountaineers.
Griffin, that was a lot, so let's tumble into our first break of the night.
When we return on Sports Paws, we talk all things spring sports with tennis, baseball, and lacrosse. Don't go anywhere. Sports Paws will be right back.
Meet the scan, a simple procedure whose mission is to detect lung cancer early.
I'm here to save you.
But I feel fine.
That's great, but you may still be at high risk for lung cancer.
Oh man, that's a new fence.
If you smoke, early detection could save your life. Learn more at savedbythescan.org.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
Was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text-to-emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies. Selfies. Nailed it.
We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on man, let's put a ride home.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What? I can't drive. Why? My. Oh.
Welcome back to Sports Paws. Let's head over to the baseball diamond where Quinnipiac hosted Iona for a 3-game weekend set. Let's roll the highlights on Game 1. After falling to Fairfield on the road 13-3, Quinnipiac looks to rebound against the Iona Gales. Mike Poncini gets the nod on the bump for the Bobcats. He starts this one off in the bottom of the first inning. Anthony D'Onofrio says, "Get off of me, baseball." Obliterates that one, putting the Bobcats up 1-0. Moving to the bottom of the second now, Quinnipiac bats get red hot, and Sebastian Muller blasts this 3-run shot. Back. That will leave the yard, giving the Bobcats a comfortable 7-0 lead. However, not even a half inning later, Jake Field demolishes this 3-run shot. Building off his MAC Player of the Week nod, that ball is not going to stay in the yard. Sources to say it hasn't even landed yet. Fast forward to the top of the 5th inning, and no, this is not a replay. Jake Field again smashes his second home run of the game, this time a solo shot. Quinnipiac still leads at 13-5. While the Gales keep putting up runs, the Bobcats offense echoes it. Mattes Iero hits this nuke to increase the lead to 8 runs. He had 3 hits on the day, a monster performance. Did you think D'Onofrio was done? I surely did not. Anthony D'Onofrio blasts his second home run of the day. Quinnipiac back up double digits. That man is a monster in the box. The mercy rule was in play, but Chris Mariani says, hold on. This 3-run tank will keep Iona in the ballgame for a few more innings. However, the comeback effort will not be fulfilled as the Bobcats end up running away with the one 24-10. You heard that correctly, 24-10. That's a football score. Quinnipiac, 24, Iona 10. That's the final. Bobcats take it.
After hanging 3 touchdowns and a field goal on Iona in Game 1, the Bobcats look to continue their momentum into Game 2. Unfortunately, the Bobcats could not take the victory in a rainy Saturday matchup as John Delaney's squad fell to the Gales 9-6. Quinnipiac could not build on its 3-1 lead after the 4th, allowing 4 runs, including a 3 RBI double in the top of the 5th. Jared Zimbardo and Matt DeRosa stood out in the loss as they each went yard. But Tim Blaisdell fell to 1-6 on the season after allowing 5 runs and 9 hits in his 5 innings pitched in the game. After an upset loss in Game 2, did the Bobcats take the rubber match in Game 3? Let's find out right now. The Bobcats and the Gales getting set for the rubber match in Hamden. Kevin Sider getting the start for the Bobcats in Game 3, trying to take the series win for the blue and gold. Let's go to the top of the first inning as the Gales will strike first. You know this name in Game 1, Jake Field. He drives this ball to the deep part of the field. Not enough to get out, but it is deep enough to get in the first run of the ball game, and it's 1-0 Gales in the top of the first. But let's go to the bottom of the first. The Bobcats would respond. It's McGuire Tuffy. He hits a sacrifice fly that brings home Sebastian Muller. Quinnipiac takes the 2-1 lead after tying it earlier in the first. As we go to the bottom of the fourth, Quinnipiac up 3-1 with the bases loaded, and Anthony D'Onofrio, you've heard that name before. He hits a line drive up the second base, and that drives home 2 more runs. The Bobcats open up the lead. It's now 5-1. 1 inning later in the 5th, the Bobcats in command up 9-1, and it's D'Onofrio again. A deep shot down the right field line, just missing the fence for a home run, but he will have an RBI double, and he finishes the day with 4 RBIs in total. Now up by 15 in the top of the 7th, the Bobcats would close the door on the Gales by way of the mercy rule on this double play here. It's a grounder to third, the old 5-4-3 double play, and that's your ball game. The Quinnipiac Bobcats close out the weekend series win with a dominant 16-1 win over the Gales and will be over 500 in MAC play. The bats were hot this weekend series, including first baseman Sebastian Muller. Baseball beat reporter Ben Rickovicius has more.
46 runs, 37 hits, and 29 walks. The Bobcats had an offensive explosion this week against Iona in Hamden. Sebastian Muller was a key contributor with 10 hits on the weekend. The Bobcats offense started the weekend hot, scoring 24 runs in Game 1 of the series. Sebastian Muller went 5 for 6 at the plate, hitting this 3-run home run and also a 2 RBI base hit in the bottom of the 8th. John Delaney talked about how Sebastian Muller's approach to the plate has changed.
Having a good approach and understanding how I'm getting pitched and then being on time for those pitches, right? So, he's not second-guessing himself. He's trusting his plan and then being able to produce in big spots for us today. Obviously, 2 sac flies today.
After losing to Iona the next day, the Bobcats would rebound on Sunday, earning the win after scoring 16 runs. Sebastian Muller helped this effort with a nice infield single that ended up scoring a run. Outfielder Anthony D'Onofrio has been impressed with Muller's work.
Oh my gosh, he's just incredible. He continues to produce for this team, and especially toward the back half of the season, when he's starting to show up like he always does, this is when we need him most. So going forward, he's going to be a huge asset.
In some cases, Muller couldn't get on by hitting, but he was able to draw walks and get sacrifice flies to advance runners home. Head coach John Delaney continues to praise plate discipline.
To be a good hitter, you just can't have all the ability. You just have to have good approaches to that. And he's doing a good job with his approach right now.
Sebastian Muller and the Quinnipiac Bobcats will try to continue to have hot bats against the Yale Bulldogs on Wednesday. In the last game against Yale this season, Sebastian Muller went 0 for 3. We'll see if he can improve on that. For Q30 Sports, I'm Ben Rickovicius.
Thanks, Ben. After a weekend series with Iona, let's find out where the Bobcats stand in the MAC standings as we head into the middle of April. The Bobcats series win over Iona puts them in a tie for 6th place with Mount St. Mary's. Both teams have a conference record of 6-6. Fairfield and Canisius are tied for first at 7-2. Ryder and Niagara round out the top 4 at 9-3 and 7-5 respectively. Manhattan, Iona, Siena, and St. Peter's are all in the bottom half of the standings, The Bobcats will look to continue to rise in the standings next week as they face off against Yale and Canisius. The Quinnipiac women's lacrosse team celebrated Senior Day against Canisius on Saturday. Let's roll the tape. The Quinnipiac women's lacrosse team was at home in Hamden for Senior Day against the Canisius Golden Griffins, as the Bobcats and the Griffins are looking to sit in the 500 mark in MAC play. Let's go to the first quarter, where we don't see a goal until 6 minutes into the first half, as Canisius' Meg Hiltz puts the Griffs up by 1. Just over a minute later, Caroline Nettie nets a goal for Canisius. Moving on to the final moments of the first, Canisius' Nettie would score 2 more to put the Griffs up 4-0. That is until Amy Nikoloff rips a free position shot in the bottom right corner of the net to get the Bobcats on the board. Into the second quarter we go as the Golden Griffins continue to roll, as it's Maggie Tift that gives the Griffins a comfortable 4-goal lead, 5-1. The Bobcats would respond as the senior Desiree Kleberg starts the wraparound around the net, and she makes a great play to score a big goal for the Bobcats to get them back in this game. The Bobcats would add another few goals in the next couple of minutes to get the lead down to 2, but Canisius was not having it as Siler MacArthur scores with 2 seconds left in the first half to cut the Bobcat momentum going into the second half. Let's go to the third quarter. The Bobcats would not let that last second goal by Canisius let them down, as Kat Henselder and her superb defense throughout the third, not allowing a single goal in the 15-minute frame. The Bobcats' stellar defense allowed for good offense, including 2 goals, including this one off the free position from Sophie Spencer as time expires in the quarter. The Bobcats' momentum was cut at the start of the fourth as we go to the fourth, as Canisius scored 2 goals to give them a comfortable lead heading into the final 10 minutes of the game. The fourth quarter was the Desiree Kleberg show, as she scores 2 goals within a minute of each other to bring the Bobcats within a goal with under a minute left. With 56 seconds left to go in the fourth quarter, Ella Grace Delamont scores the holy grail off the free possession, and we have a tie game here in Hamden. There's the replay, and with that, we go into overtime. In overtime, yet again, the Bobcats are given a free position. Ball in Desiree Kleberg's stick. She charges in, and she scores the game winner as Quinnipiac rallies back from an early deficit. The Bobcats move to 3-3 in MAC play, and their next and final home game will be against the Iona Gales this Wednesday, the 19th, here in Hamden.
Now that the Bobcats have secured a critical MAC win, let's see where the women's lacrosse team stacks up in the standings. At the top spot, we have the Siena Saints at 6-1 in conference. Fairfield Stags follow the Saints with a 5-1 record. Tied for third with a 3-3 record is the Niagara Purple Eagles and the Quinnipiac Bobcats. Below the Bobcats is the Mount St. Mary's Mountaineers, Iona Gales, the Canisius Golden Griffins, and finally in the 8th spot is the Manhattan Jaspers. With 2 games left in the season, the Bobcats look to get higher in the standings as they host Iona on Wednesday. David, it's time for another break. Tell us what we've got on the other side.
Well, Griffin, we have men's lacrosse and the top 5 plays when we return. Stay with us here on Sports Paws.
When we adopt a shelter pet, we discover they're a unique mix of all kinds of things.
Come on, Jim, spotting on this last one. There it is. Keep going with it. Leo.
They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love.
I know what you're thinking. I need a job. I need a new career.
Well,
I've been there.
I've been there.
I've been there. I wasn't happy with what I was doing.
After high school, I didn't have a plan.
I just wanted to start working.
I got laid off twice, but you gotta keep going.
You just need the right skills. Find an apprenticeship.
I found a 2-year IT program.
I found a medical course online.
I'm now a consultant in the tech space.
You have more options than you think. You can do this.
You will find something.
You will find something new.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made home ownership happen. Homeschooling yourself on loans, beefing up your credit score.
So I'm pre-approved.
You were like, yes! Sorry. Color coding listings, ticking boxes, and flushing every toilet in a 20-mile radius. Home sweet home. You aced house hunting. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Welcome back to Sports Paws. Thanks for sticking with us. Staying on the lacrosse field, but switching to the men's team, the Bobcats continued MAC play against Sacred Heart on the road. The Bobcats dropped an important conference matchup to the Pioneers 13-11 on Wednesday. Jake Tellers led the way for the Bobcats in the defeat with 3 goals. Stephen Germain also contributed 2 goals and 2 assists. Quinnipiac attempted the comeback, but junior Morgan O'Reilly scored a career-high 7 goals to propel the Sacred Heart Pioneers to a home field victory. After a tough road loss, the Bobcats looked to rebound versus VMI on Saturday. Quinnipiac took a 14-13 thriller on the road to improve to 4-4 in MAC play. Senior John DeLucia was dominant as he put up 3 goals and 1 assist. Junior Stephen Germain and junior Dylan Donnery each contributed 2 goals to put the Bobcats back at 500. Graduate student goaltender Nick DiMuccia recorded 12 saves and allowed 13 into the back of the cage in this one-goal contest. The Bobcats will close out the regular season on Saturday at home against LIU.
After splitting the week against Sacred Heart and VMI, did the Bobcats improve in the MAC standings? Let's take a look. Quinnipiac currently sits at 4th place at 4-4 in the MAC standings. Mount St. Mary's is in 1st after 7 straight wins in conference play. Manhattan is in 2nd, followed by Marist in 3rd. Siena, LIU, and Sacred Heart all sit at 4-4 and are still in the playoff race. VMI, Wagner, and Canisius are sitting at the bottom and have an outside shot at the postseason. Quinnipiac can clinch a home playoff game with a win on Saturday at home against LIU on Senior Day. Hey, Griffin, I just got an alert. Is it that time?
It is that time. It is the top 5 plays of the week. Roll it. Starting off with play number 5, top of the 7th inning. Iona's Chris Mariani grounds it over to the 3rd. Mattes Oriero throws it over to Kyle Maves. First, it's for the first game-ending double play. Bobcats would win this one 16-1.
Let's go to play number 4 in the lacrosse field. Desiree Kleber crashed into 3 Golden Griffin defenders, but still gets the shot past Delaney Hayden. There's the replay to get the Bobcats in the game. There's more from her later.
Back to baseball for play number 3. Blink and you might miss it as Kyle Maves dives into the dirt, covers the ball up, and sends it over to Sebastian Muller at first for the final out of the inning. And as you can see, both players are hyped up as they get their pitcher out of trouble.
Let's stay on the baseball diamond in the bottom of the 1st at number 2. It's Anthony D'Onofrio at the dish. He says, "See ya later." As that one goes into orbit and it is long gone, he would leave the yard later again in this game as Quinnipiac ran away from Iona in Game 1, 24-10.
Finally, it is time for the play you've all been waiting for. Play number 1. It is overtime, and Desiree Kleberg will take matters into her own hands as she runs up and fires a shot past the Canisius goalkeeper to win it for the Bobcats. That's it for tonight's show and my run at Q30. Thank you to everyone in Q30 and QBSN for providing me with the opportunities I've been giving. I'm eternally grateful for all the experiences in student media.
Even though I'll be back at Q30 next year, I truly appreciate the opportunities given to me by the organization, allowing me to beat report for 3 teams over the course of this past year. And I am excited to run it back next season. Be sure to check out Q30TV.com and download the Q30 TV app on the App Store. Also, follow us on Twitter at Q30 Sports for more content.
For David Marr, I'm Griffin Cass, signing off from Studio 125. Good night.